All right. My name is Sister Barbara Lum, and I was in Selma, Alabama, known as Sister Eleanor. And I was born and raised a Catholic in Rochester, New York. Went to Catholic schools and had the Sisters of St. Joseph for all of my classes, I think, except one science class when I was in high school. And so I always admired the sisters, I always liked them. And I thought a few times about maybe God was calling me to be a sister. But I didn't do anything about that, or I didn't ever tell anybody about that. And when I was a senior in high school in 1952, the beginning of that year, we had the vocation talk. And Mother Helene, who later sent me to the mission in Selma, was the person who came. She was the superior general of the congregation of the Sisters of St. Joseph, and she came to our high school. And I don't remember everything she says, or hardly anything that she said, but what I do remember was that she asked us to think about what would we wish we had done with our lives when we were dying, or at the end of our lives. What would we wish we had done with our lives? What would I wish I had done with my life? And it came to me just in a flash that I would wish I'd been a Sister of St. Joseph. And so I began to think I should do something about that. And then that would fade away. I had a whole senior year to kind of ignore this and think about it once in a while. And so when it would come back to me, I would think, well, maybe God is really calling me. But I'd kind of wait and see. So it was June of that year, my senior picnic, when I asked one of the sisters, what would a girl do? Not this girl, but what would a girl do if she thought God was calling her to enter religious life? So she, of course, said, would that girl be you? And then I was sent out for an interview. And in fact, she told me to wait. She told me to wait a few weeks and call her if I still thought that I was interested. And so I did that. And then I just kind of went through all the process, told my parents. In September 1953, then I entered the Sisters of St. Joseph. And at the same time, I entered Nazareth College. I had been enrolled there as a nursing student. And so the Mother Helene, the congregation, kept me in that track of nursing. So almost everyone that I knew went into teaching, and I felt very fortunate. But that year, 1953, there were two other young women who had been nursing students at our hospital in Elmira, and two others who had graduated from there and were enrolled to get their bachelor's degree. So we all got enrolled in the bachelor's program at Nazareth College, which our sisters also ran. So that was 1953 when I entered the convent and started nursing in college as well. And 1954, in June of that year, was the time that I was received into the congregation to begin a novitiate year. All of us went through this reception ceremony in which we were received into the congregation, and in those years received the habit of the Sisters of St. Joseph. So we were dressed like Sisters of St. Joseph, and then spent that year learning more about religious life, learning about a life with vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, and living that life, having time for prayer, time for study. And we did a lot of the work that was to be done around the house that we lived in, which was a large mother house. And so we kind of banded together and decided, most of us, that yes, we still felt called to this life. So when the end of that year came, and that was June of 1955, July of 1955, we made vows for the first time, in which we promised to live in the congregation under vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. And so those were called temporary vows. And then when that period of time was up, by that time I had come to Alabama and came back to make perpetual vows with many of the people that I had entered with. And that was it was June 29th in 1959, 1960, I think, 1960, sorry. And so I've been a Sister of St. Joseph for all of those years. And after I graduated from nursing school, I worked for a year in Elmira, New York, at St. Joseph's Hospital, which our sisters at that time ran. And at the end of that year, Mother Helene gave me a mission to go to Selma, Alabama. And I remember the morning that we left for Selma. We got up very early to go to the train station, and Mother Helene was out on the lawn. It was dark out, and I think it was like 5:30. The train was a very early train, and as she said goodbye to us, I had a very strong sense of being blessed and being sent on a mission, which I had very few expectations of what that was going to be like. And coming to Alabama, coming through that long train ride and overnight, coming into Alabama, one of the things that I did see just getting off the train was that the station itself was in two sections, two segregated sections. One of them was marked colored water fountain, colored restroom, and a colored waiting room. And that was what the signs said. And the other was marked whites only and had the same facilities. So then when I arrived at the convent, and the sisters were there and welcoming us with lemonade and cookies, and then the next day was a Sunday, and I remember Sister Margaret Isabel took me over to the hospital just to introduce me to the staff. And they were all just very welcoming, and I think very curious to know what was the newest sister going to be like. And then the next day, I started working on the pediatric unit, and always kind of under Sister Margaret Isabel's wing, at least for a time, until I found my way around.